catch you by surprise. It's a few minutes early, so I don't know if you got your system turned on already or not, or excuse me, if you were figuring that you'd log in right at 8 o'clock, but anyway, we're here and we're getting started, so great to see everybody, and can't see anybody at the other end that's watching, but hopefully there's a few out there, and hopefully I don't put you to sleep, because if I did, I wouldn't know. So, yeah. So, we've been hitting a few different subjects along the way here. Pastor had given me, like a 4 or 5 week period to do some teaching here. And so I felt like it kind of wrapped up some of the other things that we were already studying, Paul. All right, so, and I kind of circled back, and Karen said, well, didn't you already talk about that like maybe 6 months ago or something like that? And I said, well, to a degree, yeah. But I don't think this is, well, I mean, okay, maybe if every single sermon was, maybe that would get a little redundant and monotonous, but I don't think that you can really beat this too much to death, and you'll see in a minute what I'm referring to. I'm being deliberately vague. So if I can have Isaiah, I'm going to start there. Okay, I got Isaiah. All right then. I will mention the loving kindness of the Lord and the praises of the Lord, according to all the Lord hath bestowed on us, and the great goodness toward the house of Israel, which he hath bestowed on them according to his mercies, and according to the multitude of his loving kindness. For he said, surely they are my people, children that will not lie. So he was their Savior. In all their affliction, he was afflicted, and the angel of his presence saved them. In his love and in his pity, he redeemed them, and he bare them and carried them all the days of old. So my title is, There is None Greater. So he said, they are my people, children that will not lie, and he was their Savior. So what did we just go and commemorate, recognize, memorialize the last couple weeks? Right? Palm Sunday. That's right. Good Friday. Good Friday. Easter. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, do we know that actually happened exactly on a Sunday? And was the next one really a Friday? Calendars have changed so many different times. Even ours isn't exactly what it used to be, because, well, some of the other calendars really didn't work that well. They weren't exactly aligned with what the actual time it takes for the planet to rotate, so they would start to creep. So all of a sudden summer would be like sometime at the end of September, and it'd be like, it's kind of cold for summer. And eventually they figured out what our actual rotation was and fixed all of that. So we don't know what those days really are. Christmas the same. Was he born on December the 25th? I don't even think it was in December. I believe most likely it was sometime around the harvest, probably September. But does it make any difference at all? Could it be March? Yeah. Could it be July? Yeah. Actually, even if you look at the names of our months, they even came from different places. That a lot of them are Roman. Right? So, hey, we've got pagan months. So, what's going on, right? It's just our way of marking time because we're stuck within it. He's outside of it. So whatever day that was doesn't really matter. The fact that he was still born someplace, right, at whatever time that was, we know when that was. Basically, that he had two parents. Well, okay, he had a stepfather, God, of course, being his real parent. We know where they were. Right? They were called for a census. She delivered a baby. There was no place for them. They weren't staying at the Hilton, or was it the long-term rental guy? What is the name of that place where they've got the little suites? They weren't They weren't in any of those places, were they?
No.
No. It was a dirty old barn. So the day is irrelevant. The fact that it happened is all about what's relevant.
That's right.
Because that was when he showed and proved his people how far, how maximally would his love stretch? How far would it go? All right. So after he was born, we don't hear a whole lot. We see him preaching in the temple when he was like, what, 11, 12, something like that, right? There isn't a whole lot of detail in between until we get to around year 30, which we don't even know exactly if it was year 30. Another guess. All right, but does that change anything? Absolutely not. He did his ministry, what he was here for. We know that that was about 3.5 years. And he did all sorts of things during that time. Taught great lessons. Thousands of people attended these sermons and parables. Healed, raised the dead, and then went to a cross for all of us. So who cares about what the day was? This was it right here. It was all about how much did he care. Right? And people have said, how much did he love us? Enough to stretch out his arms and die. And I don't know if that's actually biblical, but that particular phrase, but the sentiment behind it is 100%. Right? When the two thieves were going back and forth. And I find that kind of interesting too, that story changes a little bit. You read the different Gospels. One of them says that both of them were beating him verbally. And the one of them says, hey, stupid, do you realize you're talking to the creator of the universe? We deserve to die. He doesn't. And he says to him, today you'll be with me in paradise. But yet not all the Gospels mention that. The other one just said that they were both railing on him, which means that they were hurling insults. And he's saying, you know, you could just hop off of this cross if you really are God, right? I mean, you're going to tell me that you can raise the dead, but a couple of nails, you can't overcome a little piece of iron? No. It wasn't the iron that held him on there. It was his care for all of us.
Right. Yes.
And here's Isaiah 300 some years before the quiet time, so that's like a total of 800. See, that's another thing. We don't even know how old Isaiah was or when that was. But we know for sure that it was way before that, because we know there was a 400-year nothing period. God never spoke. It was dead air. Right? Somebody clicked off the transmitter. And he told him, which we have gone over multiple times, what did it say? About how he's been beaten and bruised and made his grave with the rich and with the wicked, et cetera, et cetera. All these things that he did for us. So here's Isaiah way back telling us already, what's he going to do? Love for his people. Now, of course, this time, at this particular instant, he's saying, my people, my children. We know that he's talking about Israel only, right? Because he hadn't come to the Gentiles yet. So we know that. But yet, see, that's another thing that's really outside of the period of time. And it was the period of time for the people that were Gentiles during that time. But for us, it's outside of any particular time, because we were born so far later that what does that really impact us? We look back from a historical perspective and say, well, there was the Jews and then there was the dogs, because that's what they looked at us as, dirt. And then that separation was removed, and he said that all of you now, by adoption, anyone so chooses, that I call, if you heed that call, you're in. You're now one of my people. So here he was saying the people, but you can broaden that single statement. It's all of us. So Matthew had this to say. Ye have heard that it hath been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thy enemy. Old Testament, right?
Yes.
I say unto you, love your enemies. Bless them that curse you. Do good to them that hate you. And pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you.
Yes.
You might be thinking this boy's off his nut. You're like, what, you a little crazy? What are you talking about? Why am I going to bless them that hate me? Why am I going to be nice to them that curse me? What's going on there? Why? Well, didn't he say that if you're hating those that you have seen, you have not seen the Father? How is then he going to forgive you if you can't forgive them? If you can't show them love, why is he going to give you any? Wasn't that the warning we were given?
Yes.
Pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. Persecute, wow. Despitefully use you, cheat you. Lie to your face. Lie to other people about you, behind your back. Despiteful, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust.
Yes.
Okay, so if he's saying that if we're going to be the children of our Father which is in heaven, if we're not doing this, then who's our Father then? We're children of who? The other guy, right?
That's right.
The one we don't like.
That's right.
The one everybody goes, boo, hiss.
Yes.
He keeps going with that. For if you love them which love you, what reward have you? And then he goes all medieval on them. Do not even the publicans the same. And you know what he had to say about the publicans. And the Sanhedrin and all the rest of the supposed leadership. And I'm doing the air quote thingy because remember what he said about all them. He called them vipers. He called them liars. He called them sons of Satan. He said they were little devils all dressed up nice. He called them whitewashed and fancy, but full of dead things, dead men's bones and decay and worms and stink. Right? So yeah, he didn't hold back on that, did he? He didn't like them people. But yet, even when he was calling them out for all of that stuff, we'll go with stuff, keep it clean. He still had to love them, didn't he? Because otherwise he's breaking his own commandment that he just said in the, 2 verses before.
That's right.
Love your enemies. Now, doesn't say that he had to like at all what they were doing, because we know he didn't. He called them out on it big time. And when he got to the temple, he found himself some rope or cord or whatever it was exactly that he used. And he sat there and made a little science project, wove it all together, and then got real busy on cleaning. And you know what kind of busy we got here? Whooped them.
Yep.
They got a flaying. Kick them all out. You made my house into a mess. Nothing wrong with Walmart, but Walmart don't belong here. That's what he was angry about. He said, you put Walmart in my temple. This is my house where you're supposed to be talking and coming to hear from me.
That's right.
And you turned it into the town bazaar. And you're being overcharged by these crooks who are cheating you. So there's just dishonor and bad stuff all around. So wouldn't he have a right to be angry? Yeah. But at the same time, he said, if you love them which only love you, what reward have you? Do not even the others, the dirty mongrels that I just beat, whooped, and kicked out, be nice to the people that are nice to them. He made a good point.
Yes. Deuteronomy says this.
Now these are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments which the Lord your God commanded to teach you, that you might do them in the land whither you go to possess it. Commandments, statutes, and judgments. So statutes is what, like a list of rules or laws, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you violated a Maryland statute, blah, 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 and you're in front of a judge, he's going to go, well, you're guilty of section 23.1, subparagraph, blah, 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 subparagraph, and 6 months. Bailiff, take him away. You just found out that that statute has some weight, didn't you?
That's right.
Commandments. How many did we start out with? Well, if you're looking at Mel Brooks, it was 15, right? Before he accidentally dropped one and smashed it. Read these 10 commandments. Of course, we know that was Hollywood. It is funny, but he gave them 10, right? But he said that the whole law was like, 637, whatever it was, right? Something insane that he said nobody could keep anyway because there's so many of them. Who could even rattle them off? Do you even think the Pharisees could name all 600 and whatever that was in a row? The guy's got a better memory than I do, if he can, because I would be super impressed. That would be pretty amazing. It would be very difficult. I hear tell that there are people that can recite the entire Bible from memory.
Definite.
That's really something else. You ever saw the Book of Eli? And again, a movie.
Yeah.
But he gets to the end and he recites the entire Bible from memory. I hear that there are people that can do that for real. I'm certainly not one of them. I'm lucky enough to remember the good parts to be able to witness to somebody else when I'm giving him something. So here we got commandments, and then we've got all these statutes, which you probably can't even remember, and then we have judgments. Well, judgments come if you cross a statute, right?
That's right.
Like I was just saying, if the judge says blah, 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 and the evidence all finds that you're guilty of violating whatever that was, bailiff haul him off. So he's giving them all of this because they were under the commandments, statutes, and judgments of Egypt. For 400 years, they didn't have any law of their own, right? They had to do what the Egyptians told them.
Yes.
So he basically had to rebuild a government from scratch.
Yes.
So he's saying, I'm going to teach you that you might do them in the land where you're going to possess, where I'm going to send you to, because now you're not going to have somebody else overlooking your shoulder all the time. You got to figure this one out on your own, and you got to do it right.
Yes.
Why? That thou mightest fear the Lord thy God, to keep all his statutes and his commandments, which I command thee, thou and thy son and thy son's son, all the days of thy life. Thy days may be prolonged. Hear therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with thee, and that ye may increase mightily, as the Lord God of thy fathers hath promised thee in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Lord, the Lord our God is one Lord. Okay, so he's a declarative statement for him, right? And then what? And do whatever you feel like. No, it doesn't say that, does it?
No.
Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, all thy soul, and all thy might. Right, so remember what we were talking about, where all of the divisions and chapter numbers and everything were all assembled much later, right? So, like we were saying before about some other things, these are two pieces that fit together. He said, if you got my statutes and my commandments and you do them, well then automatically you're going to have to love the Lord with all your soul, all your might, and all your heart. Because otherwise you're not going to be keeping all of that. Right? Didn't he say, Hear, O Israel?
Yes.
The Lord God is one God. Right? I am jealous. You shall have nobody
That's right.
before me,
That's right.
nobody behind me, nobody next to me. I ain't riding the Amtrak with a whole bunch of passengers. This is my train alone.
That's right.
Right? I'm the driver, I'm the chief engineer, and I'm the passenger. It's my train.
That's right.
I don't share it with anybody. Get out. You got any fake heathen gods from any place that you collected? We know they did that a lot.
Yeah.
Get rid of them. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thy heart. Okay, so that's pretty good, but hey, he's not done. Thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when walk by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. So he's saying, okay, so look, I'm giving you a whole bunch of rules here, but if all I do is give you a bunch of rules, after a generation or two dies off, who's going to remember any of those rules? Your job is to make sure that your kids learn them. And their job, and your job as a grandparent, if you're blessed to live that long, is both to make sure that those kids know what's going on. Right? Because didn't one of the prophets come running out one time and had some of the scrolls? And he said, we found the missing God. They had forgotten Jehovah.
Yes.
Am I off the book, brother?
Mars Hill.
Doesn't it say that?
Mars Hill.
Well, yeah, there was that one, but
What did he say?
Old Testament, one of the
Mars Hill.
Marcel, yeah, but Old Testament, didn't one of the prophets take and run into the king and says, you know, look what I've found. This is all the stuff left over that was lost from the temple, and it was quite a period of time. I don't remember exactly how long or who the prophet was, but I'm pretty sure I'm remembering the story right. And they were all upset. They're like, wow, look at what we've been slack. We haven't done this. We need to get on this. It could have been. It could have been. I could always look it up, but that's probably not really super critical. The important thing was that they hadn't done this, right? How would they just come running in and go, look what I discovered, if they were doing the job? They wouldn't have. They wouldn't have, right? Because if it was continuously passed down, father to kid, to grandkid, to great-grandkid, if you lived that long, and as their progression went, that was their job going forward, great, however far, right? But somewhere they busted the chain. They stopped.
Yeah, praise the Lord.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, plus there was a big flip and flop during Kings and Chronicles. Some kings served the Lord, some did evil, some got them to serve Baal, so there's a lot of back and forth.
Yeah.
Even in times of
right
before that,
No, that's very true. So I don't know if the mic caught that, picked it all up, but he was saying how when you're reading in like Kings and Chronicles, it'll say that blah 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 did very well in the sight of the Lord. He kept all the commandments and the statutes, and he was loved by God. And then his son or his grandson, whatever, did evil in the sight, and they planted groves, and then they brought in fake gods from other places, and they had women imported that shouldn't have been there, and everything went crazy. And then they would have to turn around, and most of the time it was because and God's got his computer keyboard there, and one of the buttons that we don't have on our keyboard, but his says smite, so he would hit the smite button. I got that from Farsight. I didn't actually invent that, but I loved that cartoon. It was so appropriate. It was tagged at the bottom, God at his keyboard. It was hilarious. Yeah, you just see this wacky looking dude. I mean, have you ever seen all the Farsight? All the people are like, they're all really weird looking. This dude's just walking along, and there's like this piano or anvil or something hanging over him, and you see the thing that's holding from is starting to just unwind and snap, and you're just like, yeah, he has no idea he's about to get it, It's just God at his keyboard, and you see the big finger is right over the smite button. But, okay, so the guy that was making the cartoon was making fun, but that's exactly what was going on, right? They would get out of line, and they'd get the smite button.
That's right.
One time the smite button was called the Babylonians. And then the Babylonians got the smite button. That was called the Media Persians, and they smacked them both. Right? So then the Israelites were then slaves of the Babylonians, who were then slaves of the Medo-Persians. So now they were really at the bottom of the pile. But yet, if you look through that story, later on, cupbearer goes to the king and says, I'm sad. Or actually the king asked him. I take that back, yeah. He said, why is thy countenance fallen? He's looking sad. He didn't even say anything yet. And he's like, the king can have me killed for doing this. I'm supposed to be happy in front of him all the time. The king's like, in the modern vernacular, yo homie, what's up? He's like, well, I'm sad because my hometown is wrecked. Ah, I see. Well, how did that happen? Oh, you know, those guys that you came in and kicked their butts, well, they came in before that, kicked our butts, and laid waste to our holy places and our city. Really? How about that? What do you want to do about it? Can I go home and fix it? That would make me happy. Okay. So a heathen king gives him permission. Not only does he give him permission, he digs in the royal treasure and says, you know what, I'm so stinking rich. It's ridiculous. I've got 128 provinces. I got more, well, pardon the laughing vernacular, I've got more money than God. We know he doesn't, but he's like, oh, I could certainly afford this. Not only am I going to let you go do that, I'm going to pay for it for you as well. So after they got the smite button, after a period of time, he'd come back again, wouldn't he? Because he still loved his wayward children.
Yeah.
Like he did with the story of the prodigal son. He's like, yeah, I'm going to have to put my foot up there and snap it off. But then I'm going to say, after I'm done giving you a hiney smack like you do to your kids, then you tell them, Dad, sorry you had to do that, but Dad still loves you.
Yeah.
That's right. Amen. Amen.
So he was still showing that care, wasn't he?
Yes, yes. Wonderful.
And then in John records Jesus' little speech, revelation to them. Verily, verily, I say unto you. And what does that always go with when he says verily, verily, right? That means this is important. Right? It's like, put the phone down. I'm talking here. Get off of Facebook for a minute. I need you to listen to what I'm telling you. Verily, verily, I say to you, the servant is not greater than his Lord, neither he that sent greater than he that sent him. A new commandment I give unto you. New. Like they didn't have enough that they had to try to keep already, right? Now I'm getting another one. Oh, man. A new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. Why? By this shall all men know ye are my disciples, if ye have love one to another. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. So, I mean, we see that maybe not on a daily basis, thank God at least for that, but certainly enough times that we can think of occasions, wartime and peace. Enemy tosses a grenade into the inside of an armored vehicle, and you know that when that thing goes off, it's going to kill everybody in there. The guy throws himself on top of it, and the grenade goes off. And, you know, he's obliterated, but the other men live. Well, could be women now, too, because we do have women in combat. He felt that was a necessary, worthwhile sacrifice. Right? But you see stuff like that in peacetime, too. Remember the guy at the bridge in Washington, D.C. when the plane wrecked? Right? And the helicopter was dragging people out of the river. It was, I think, in January, if I remember right. So very, very cold, full of ice, right? This guy keeps passing the rope to other people to get Did he have time to think about his action? No. Did he think that that was probably going to result in his death? I don't know, maybe. I mean, throwing yourself on a grenade, you know what the ends of that's going to be. So you're completely cognizant of that episode, but maybe he thought that he could hold out long enough that the chopper would make one more swing. He'd get out too. But he didn't. But that doesn't detract from what he accomplished, what he did, why he did it. That was a straight up demonstration. No greater love hath a man. And Luke answers this. And Jesus answering said to him, Simon, I have somewhat to say unto thee. Oh, here we go. Peter in trouble again, right? Wow. Surprising. And he said, Master, say on. There was a certain creditor which had 2 debtors. The one owed 500 pence, the other 50. And when they had nothing to pay, he frankly forgave them both. Tell me therefore, which of them will love him most? Simon answered and said, I suppose that he to whom he forgave most. And he said to him, Thou hast rightly judged. And he turned to the woman and said unto Simon, Seest thou this woman? I entered into thy house. Actually, this is a different Simon. I apologize. Seest thou this woman? I entered into thine house. Thou gavest me no water for my feet. She washed my feet with her tears and wiped them with the very hairs of her head. Thou gave me no kiss. This woman, since the time I came in, hath not ceased to kiss, not his head, not his hand, not his arm, his feet. His feet. All right, most of us have pretty decent shoes, but would you still want to ask somebody to pop off their shoes? You're going to kiss their feet? I mean, I can think of a couple people right off the top of my head and be like, woo, put them back on. Yeah. And she didn't think that that was excessive. My head with oil thou didst not anoint. This woman hath anointed my feet with ointment. All right, now, if you remember and you back up on that one to a different version of the same story, what was she using?
Costly.
Was it spikenard, was it?
Yep.
If I remember right? In an alabaster container?
Yes.
So even, whatever you want to call it, the bottle, the jar, right? We throw our containers away mostly when we're done with them, right? Sometimes you might get something in a cool looking bottle and you might go, yeah, this is pretty neat. I'm going to stick this on a shelf in my den because I like it. You know, it's neat. Avon, right? Used to make those collector bottles for perfumes and colognes, right? So most likely you probably wouldn't throw that one away because it was cool. But most of the stuff now comes in junk plastic. We don't care about that. We're only interested in what's in it, and when it's used up, it's used up. We throw it in the recycle and we never look back. You know, we don't really go, oh man, you know, I really missed that plastic jug I had last week. It was the best tea in there. I wish I'd saved that jug. Yeah, it's off to the trash. Monday morning, the trash man comes at our house and it's gone.
Yeah.
The box that that stuff came in probably cost more than most people's salaries. And then what was in it was very expensive as well. But if you read the other translation of the story, it said that she took and had brought this with her and busted it open right there, smashed it. There wasn't any screw-off lid. She couldn't use half of it. She couldn't say, you know, I'm going to be cheap and I'm just going to put a little bit of this stuff on his foot. All in. It was all or nothing. She broke that open, put it on his feet. Wherefore I say unto thee, her sins, which are many. Do you remember who she was? She was a hooker.
That's right.
It's Mary the prostitute. Wherefore I say unto thee, her sins, which are many, are forgiven. She loved much, but to whom little is forgiven, the same loves little. Just like what he asked a few paragraphs ago. The one debt and the other, which one would love more? And he said unto thy sins are forgiven. And they that sat at meat with him began to say within themselves, here it comes, right? Here we go. Game on. Who is this that forgiveth sins also? And he said to the woman, thy faith has saved thee. Go in peace. And if I remember right, doesn't it go a little further along, and this is when they're plotting, right? Because they're all saying inside of their head and their heart, which, of course, we know there was nothing really hidden. The other people in the room didn't hear it. They didn't say it out loud. But Mr. Telepathic, Jesus who knows all, is sitting there listening to all the conversations at once. He's just like, really? Okay. Yep. Okay, so you say I'm not the Son of God. You say I deserve to die for blasphemy. You said, well, her sins were too much. Those can't be forgiven. You over there said all three. How about that? But he didn't do anything about it. Didn't it say that he had to love those that despitefully used him? Well, here they're already plotting to kill him, which of course is no surprise at all, because if not, he wasn't the lamb slain before the foundation of the world, but yet he was slain for these chuckle nuts too, wasn't he? Tackheads still get the possibility of salvation. Not all of us can do that. Somebody really messes you up, it can be super hard to actually forgive them. You might say you did. You might pretend you did. You might actually even believe that you did. Until something brings that back into remembrance again, and you're like, I really actually didn't let that go. I thought I did. And now you're feeling hate again. Could be hours, could be minutes, could be days, could be years, could be decades. You don't have to admit to it. Could be decades. Still got a little burning piece of fester you haven't got rid of. Right? And what does that do later? And if you get shot up and you got a bunch of bullet holes and stuff in you and shrapnel and all, do they just take out the easy ones and go, you know what? It's been a really long day. You're the third guy that I had to operate on. I think I'm just going to leave the rest there. We'll come back to that later. You can't do that, can you? Because any of those pieces that are in there are going to get infected. So a piece of Unforgiven, great movie by the way, a piece of Unforgiven will sit there and sit there and sit there. Anybody ever have like an infected finger or something maybe, something fairly obvious, right? And it doesn't look like a whole lot. And you're like, yeah, okay. You thought you washed it off. It doesn't look like much. And then the day after, it's kind of a little red. You poke it, it's like, ow. And then 2 or 3 days later, you're looking at it and you're like, oh, that ain't so great. It's turning black. That's pretty gross. And then you poke it and you're like, ah! And like stuff starts coming out, right? And you're like, ugh. If you leave that alone long enough, you're going to die.
Yeah.
Get into your bloodstream.
That's right.
But it didn't kill you 3 seconds after it happened, did it? It didn't even kill you the day after. It sat there and it festered. It took a time to kill you. Unforgiveness will take time to kill you. It'll get there.
Yeah.
That's why he said we have to forgive even those that we think that we hate, that have despitefully used us, that have lied on us, that have burned us. And he also said if you have a problem with your brother, go talk to him. He didn't say your brother was guaranteed to forgive you, did he? He said you did your half of the job. You said I made a mistake. I take full responsibility for it. Will you forgive me, brother or sister? If they choose to, they choose to. If they don't, You can't change that.
Right.
No amount of pleading, no amount of threatening, no amount of bribes is going to fix that problem if they won't let it go. But you did your part.
Right.
So when he was saying in here, bless those that curse you, did he say that it mattered if they cared about that? No. He never went to that other part of the equation, did he? He never looked at the flip side at all, did he? It never said in here, okay, well, you can keep hating the guy if he flips you off. You know? If he says stuff and you're like, wow, you kiss your mom in that mouth? Then you can continue to hate him. It did not say that. It said you walk off and let it be. If he's still angry and he still has hate, that's his problem. He's the one that will die, not you. But if you don't, then both of you are going to die. That infected finger is going to kill you. Paul, in a letter to Corinth, had some observations. Though I speak with the tongues of men and angels, and have not charity, I am become as a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. He's saying heathen musical worship, I believe is what that was referring to. So he's saying that you can have the best band on the planet. The all-time greatest singer, whoever you think that might be. And the best backup musicians that you've ever heard. And you swear that you're hearing the angelic choir. But if they have no charity, it means nothing. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge. Wow, that's big. If I understand all mysteries and all knowledge, who am I? I'm God.
That's right.
It couldn't be anybody else, right? He didn't say most of them. He said all. Wow. I would have to be God. And though I have all faith, so that I could remove mountains. That's powerful. And have not charity, I am a zero. I am nothing. I am below dirt. I'm the stuff that worm poop makes fun of. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burnt and have not charity, it profiteth me zero. Nothing. Oh, he's kind of killing the works idea there, isn't he? You know, if I had, well, the joke used to be if I had Bill Gates' money, but Bill Gates is a pauper now compared to Beezy Boy, who runs Amazon. He's as rich as the next three all combined. He's got over 100 billion. That's a lot of money. I can't comprehend what you could buy with that. But if he turned around tomorrow and said, I am giving away every single penny of my money and I'm going to go back to being broke, which we of course know wouldn't happen because he'd still get a stipend from Amazon and he'd go right back to being rich anyway. But let's say that he did somehow and just, you know, in a fit of insanity signed away all of his rights to any future profits as I take nothing from now on and I have not charity, I'm zero. That accomplished nothing. Give all my goods to feed the poor. And I give myself to be burned. Not even crucified, burned. I hear that's an extremely painful way to go. That, drowning, crucifixion, probably none of them are really, all that pleasant. I think I'd rather go with die in your sleep. Sounds pretty good to me. I give myself to be burned and have no charity. Charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunts not itself. Is not puffed up. What does that mean? What's he saying here? Suffers long. Forgive those that despitefully use you. Even if they do it more than once. That's suffering long, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Is kind. envieth not. So I shouldn't be mad if my neighbor has a bigger house. I shouldn't be mad if my neighbor has a dog, because I have none. So my landlord said, I shouldn't be mad if my neighbor has a BMW i8, which actually he does, or a Ferrari, or a Porsche. I shouldn't even be mad if I think that my neighbor's wife is, and this is going to get me into all kinds of trouble, more attractive than mine, because it said, covet not thy neighbor's wife, didn't it? Wasn't that one of the commandments? Right? But it says all of those things.
Clarify that, please.
Mm-hmm. Well, I said if.
Yeah.
And you saw the neighbor's wife. Tommy boy. Anyway, all of those things are envies.
Yes.
But he told us not to do any of those, didn't he? Charity doesn't vaunt itself. I don't run around, well, if I could, you know, if I had, again, Jeff Bezos money, and I gave away literally billions, but I make such a big production of it, I go on TV every time I do it, and say, yeah, look, you ever see that when they do the charity thing, or like if somebody wins a lottery, right? There's like this check that's the size of like 500 times a normal check, you know? It's not like this little guy that you can't read, no. This one says, payable $1 billion! $100 billion. Yeah, and he's making a big thing out of this, right? On TV with this giant blow-up size fake check. So everybody can look at him. Look what I did.
Yep.
That is puffed up, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So, if you're going to do something like that, I certainly don't have $1 billion.
Amen.
But I've given away things before. I've given people cash before. I've given away items before. Don't publicize it.
Right.
Amen.
Just do it.
Doesn't it say what's done in private shall be rewarded openly?
Yes, it is. That's right.
You didn't trick God.
Come on.
You know? He didn't be fooled by that $500 check you passed off.
That's right.
You know, he said, hey, look, you know,
That's right.
it's tough here. Nobody else saw it.
Amen.
You know, the person you gave it to knows.
I know.
That's right.
God knows.
Yes.
Doesn't vaunt itself. Doth not behave itself unseemly. Seeketh not her own, is not evilly provoked, and thinketh no evil. What's behaving unseemly? Tackhead! Crack boy! Being stupid, right?
Yep.
Unseemly, doing things you shouldn't be doing. He's saying that if you have actual love, you don't do that.
Right. Well,
It's not unseemly. Seeks not her own. Doesn't run around going, oh yeah, I've got so much love. Look what I've done for all these people. Look at me. I see that probably as an adjunct to the vaunted thing, I think, unless I'm misreading that. Anyway, is not easily provoked.
Come on.
Ooh, that's a hard one. That's a real hard one. Who has a short fuse? We got at least two hands. Who has a short fuse? That's what it says, right? Doesn't it? Is not easily provoked. Be angry and sin not. Doesn't say you are never going to be angry. Doesn't say you're never going to justifiably be angry.
Come on.
Don't do it quickly. It didn't say never provoked. It did not say never provoked. It said not easily provoked. And that could probably be just as tough as the other one about going back and asking for forgiveness. Because often, if we are provoked, then we do have to go back and ask for forgiveness. Karen, that was stupid of me. I got angry over something that was really dumb, which I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. The shortest, nastiest phrase in the English language, isn't it? I'm sorry, because we don't want to apologize. Stiff-necked, uncircumcised, right? We don't want to admit we were wrong because we hate it. Don't we? Isn't that tough for most people to ever admit? She was right. He was right. Easily provoked. Thinketh no evil. Oh, that's another hard one. Again, back to the being nice to your enemies, right? The Old Testament, I said an eye for an eye. Now I say no. Now I say be nice to your enemies. Now I say turn around and let them punch you on the other side of the face. And they say that, right? Isn't that what he says? Give him the other cheek too. Mm-hmm. Rejoices not in iniquity, rejoices in the truth. You're not happy about those who are doing poorly. What is iniquity, right? It's the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing. All right? He said that the soul that sinneth, shall surely die. There. Rejoices in the truth. What truth? His truth. Not what we think is correct. Our opinions are irrelevant. We have lots of them. And our perception is our reality, so we think. But if our opinion defies his truth, then who loses? We might think we won, but we're going to lose ultimately because we'll be judged for holding on to that. We have to be smart enough and big enough, again, about the apology thing, to realize that we did wrong and flip it. Beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Charity never faileth, but whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. There be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. Anybody know how anybody built Stonehenge? Anybody know how the pyramids were assembled? Right? There's a column in, I think it's India if I remember correctly, made out of some crazy metal, which is like thousands of years old and it doesn't rust. And stainless steel was supposed to be a modern invention. And then somebody found this clay thingy that looked like a battery. It had a piece of copper inside a piece of iron, which, after examination, they were thinking it might be a 2,000-year-old battery. No, I thought Eveready invented it. No, Eveready did not. But no, oh wow, somebody was just talking about that the other day too. The modern wet cell was invented, I think, sometime in the 1700s, or so we think. Knowledge, it will vanish away. Some things have been forgotten. How were the pyramids constructed? Somebody did it. They did a really nice job. They're still there.
Yes.
They were very well built, and we exactly don't know how. We have guesses. We think we know. They had no 3,000-ton cranes. They had no diesel electric power plants. Right? They had no quick pour concrete. The Romans knew about concrete. Egyptians never used it. They used mud for glue, slime, but they never got as far as inventing concrete. Like I said, the Romans, they were smart guys. Terrible sometimes, but smart. Knowledge vanish away. Prophecy shall fail.
Come on here.
Tongues they cease. We know in part and we prophesy in part. We don't see all of it, do we? Because if we did, who would we be? We'd all be God. Well, if that were the case, Eve should have known the problem with staying on her diet. She didn't. We don't know everything, do we? When that which is perfect is come, Jesus, then that which is in part shall be done away, the current problems of the world. Right? Isn't that what that means? When that which is perfect is come, who?
Jesus.
Not me. Not her. Not you. Not Pastor. Not any of the fine folk in the back row. Everyone has sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. That which is perfect is come, only one perfect man. When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. I became a man. I put away childish things. Now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part. Then shall I know even as also I'm known. So, you acted like a child, but it says now you don't have to do that anymore. Well, you shouldn't do that anymore. Well, what do kids do when they don't get their way? Punch their brother or sister, throw a tantrum in the middle of the store. And I saw one of those going on just the other day. The mother was trying to bargain with a kid and said, you know, if you blah, 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 then I'm going to buy you this toy. Otherwise, you get nothing. That is exactly verbatim what she said. The kid's like, I don't want it. They're like, that kid needs some discipline. So I just stood there and I watched the whole thing unfolding as I'm standing in the other aisle in Walmart. If he's 30 years old and he's still doing that, what do you think is going to happen? Some guy's going to punch him out and maybe kill him. His boss is going to fire him. If he had a girlfriend, she's gone.
Sure. I don't know. Nowadays, that's debatable.
Well, okay, yeah, that might be true. She might actually like that. Anyway, thought as a child, spake as a child, acted as a child. We're supposed to grow up, right?
That's
Right.
right. That's right.
So what was I just saying about all those things that were so hard? Do kids ever say, I'm sorry? Not often. Do kids forgive their enemies that despitefully use them? Oh, no. They wait outside the play yard and give them a thrashing. Because that's what kids do. Especially if they're 30 or 40 pounds bigger than you. You know you're going to get owned. You're like, oh, come on, not again. When can I take that judo course? That's all the stuff that's childish, right?
Yeah.
Which is why the phrase childish exists. He's saying, I need to put that away. He said, when I became a man, I put away childish things. So must all the rest of us. We see through a glass darkly. Anybody ever try to look through a really dirty window? You ever been in a place that was like abandoned for a while? I've gone and done photo shoots in a few buildings that I probably weren't supposed to actually be in, maybe. I have no clear recollection of that event, Mr. Chairman. Can neither confirm nor deny.
When you get the salt on your windshield.
Yeah, right, if you get salt on the windshield, that's a good one too.
Yes.
Yeah, or when you're riding along and there's some unevenness in the asphalt, right, and this big puddle build up. And of course, this really nice semi just decides to help you out by cleaning your car off, right? So he throws this massive bow wave that the Titanic would have been proud of all over your windshield. And you're like, oh, snap, how many cars were in front of me? You're thinking a second ago, what did I see, right? Because you're trying to furiously flip the wiper so you don't run into the car in front of you while trying to recollect what was there. That were you too close to the car in front of you? Oh, I hope he didn't slam on his brakes while I couldn't see. Bam! Or like I said, when you're trying to look through a window, right, and you're maybe in some place that's been abandoned for a long, long time, and you hear a noise, and you're like, oh snap, is that the security guard coming? Am I getting arrested? You're trying to look through the window to see if anybody's there, and all you see is like these flickering weird shapes, right, because it's so dirty, that's all you get. There's things going on out there. Glass darkly. But after, then it shall be face to face. Well, after you flip that windshield wiper, hey, wow, I can see the highway again. Well, thank God that semi didn't change lanes. He's still next to me and not in front of me. That would have been bad. It would have ended poorly. Now I know in part. Then shall I know, even as also I am known, which I find to be an interesting statement. I've heard some people preach, teach, whatever, that all of us that make it to heaven will know the other people that are there. And you're probably like, wow, do we really have to do that? I was hoping I wouldn't be have to stuck with fill in the blank. Are you serious? Their mansion's right next to mine. Oh, come on, man.
You mean know them, like recognize them from time on earth?
That's what I think. He said we're going to be known as we were known. But it also says there's no sadness. So I would think that anybody that didn't make it to heaven, we're going to forget. That part will be erased. Because how many of us are going to be in mourning otherwise if people that we thought were going to be there with us are not?
That's right.
Hey, have you seen? Yeah, he didn't make it. Didn't. So that means he's. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There. Oh. My personal opinion. That's all. Nothing more. I got nothing else in the book to prove that, but that's how I read that.
Amen.
He's saying, have heart that our friends are still going to be our friends. I think. And then he rolls it up. And now abideth faith, hope, and charity. These three. But the greatest of these is love.
Sure.
Charity is love. Right? That's what it says. Beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Charity never fails. If we had no love in our planet at all, what would this place be looking like?
Like a nuclear waste.
That's right.
It would look like
Fallout New Vegas,
It would look like
I'll be worse
Washington
than
DC. It would look like Washington DC. That's what
middle of Detroit. Yeah. It would be really, really, really bad.
That's it. Thank you, Lord.
So when Eve couldn't stay on her diet and unleashed, as the legend Pandora's box, right? When they became as little g gods, knowing good and evil, we kicked loose all that good and evil out into the planet, including, remember when he was handing out the curses, he even cursed the planet, the ground, and the trees for our sake as well, right? Everyone got that curse. So now we have a good side, and we have a bad side. Come on over to the dark side, Duke. We have cookies. Without love, it would be all dark. There wouldn't be any, no, I'm a Jedi, I can't do that. There would be no light side. Everybody would be a Sith Lord. It would be ugly. So if you can take anything with you from tonight, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Strive to meet all of those, and you're getting closer to being like Jesus. We know we never will because we're all imperfect and he's perfect. But he gave us a mission too, didn't he? Right? He said we were supposed to go out and teach, but he also said, how will they know you? If you show love one to another, then they're going to know you're my disciples, my brother. He said, I no longer call you servants or followers, right? He said, now you are friends. So you know, because the servants don't get told by the Lord what's going on. Lord of the manor, right? But friends of the Lord of the manor are in the inner circle. He said, we're grafted in.
Yes.
Something to think on.
Come on, let's give God a praise.
Hallelujah.
Come on, let's give God a praise.
Hallelujah. Thank you. Hallelujah.
Yes.